Welcome back to our channel. The world stage is constantly shifting with numerous economic and political events unfolding daily. Today, we delve into a significant development with far-reaching consequences. We'll be examining the intricate web of international trade, tariffs, and their tangible impact on industries, workers, and consumers right here in the United States. We will explore how policies intended to bolster the domestic economy can sometimes lead to unforeseen and detrimental outcomes. Stick around until the end, as we'll be summarizing the key takeaways and offering our conclusions on this complex issue. Also, if you find this analysis insightful, please consider subscribing to our channel and hitting the like button. Your support is crucial for helping us continue to bring you in-depth coverage of important global events. Donald Trump envisioned that a 25% tariff would act as a shield, rescuing the American economy. However, the reality proved far more explosive, akin to an economic nuclear bomb detonation. Instead of revitalization, major corporations like John Deere and Ford began relocating their manufacturing operations beyond U.S. borders. Concurrently, American consumers faced escalating prices for vehicles, essential household items, and vital equipment, sending financial shockwaves through many families. The familiar slogan, "Nothing runs like a deer," took on a grimly ironic meaning. Well, now John Deere's running, but it's heading straight to Mexico. John Deere initiated the relocation of some of its production capacity from Iowa southward, across the border. This significant strategic shift involved altering where they manufacture their agricultural machinery. This decision wasn't made lightly. It resulted in hundreds of American workers losing their jobs, a stark consequence of shifting economic landscapes. John Deere, an emblematic name deeply rooted in American agriculture for generations, made the strategic decision to move a portion of its manufacturing from its long-standing base in Iowa to facilities in Mexico. This move didn't just send tremors through the agricultural sector. It set off a cascade of significant repercussions across the broader U.S. economy, impacting supply chains, employment, and consumer prices. Make sure to watch this video until the very end, as we will provide a detailed summary and draw important conclusions from these developments. The reaction from the Trump administration was swift and forceful. Faced with major companies moving production, Trump threatened severe countermeasures, including tariffs reaching as high as 200% on goods imported from companies like John Deere and Ford if they proceeded with relocation. The explicit goal was to exert pressure, compelling these industrial giants to reverse course and bring manufacturing operations back onto U.S. soil. Initially, these potent threats seemed to carry significant weight. However, the ultimate results were far from what was anticipated. Rather than repatriating production lines, the policy inadvertently accelerated the exodus. Companies like John Deere, instead of returning, found themselves pushed further away. Simultaneously, this policy triggered a surge in the cost of essential products for American consumers. Prices for automobiles, household appliances, and everyday goods began to skyrocket. Global supply chains, already under strain, started to fracture, leading to widespread disruptions. U.S. factories struggled to source necessary spare parts, further exacerbating production delays and intensifying economic tensions. Faced with these mounting pressures, some of the largest and most established American companies, including the automotive giant Ford and the agricultural leader John Deere, realized they couldn't simply absorb the consequences of these tariff policies indefinitely. Waiting passively was not a viable option for survival. Consequently, they made the difficult decision to migrate significant portions of their operations overseas. This wasn't just about cutting costs. It became a necessary strategy to ensure their long-term viability in an increasingly complex global marketplace. John Deere strategically expanded its manufacturing footprint into Brazil and India. These two nations offered substantially lower production costs compared to the United States, providing a crucial financial advantage. Ford, equally determined to adapt, embarked on a major initiative, investing a substantial $1 billion into electric vehicle production facilities located in Mexico and Vietnam. These locations were chosen precisely because labor and overall production expenditures are significantly more economical than within the U.S. This trend wasn't isolated. Other major American manufacturers such as General Motors and Caterpillar also began shifting operations abroad, seeking to protect their profit margins and maintain global competitiveness. They found it increasingly unsustainable to operate expensive factories within the U.S., as domestic production costs continued their relentless climb. This wave of corporate relocation reflects more than just a strategic business shift. It sends a powerful and sobering message about the current state and challenges of manufacturing within the United States. The underlying reality is stark. For many large-scale industries, domestic business costs have become prohibitively high to maintain production within U.S. borders without incurring significant financial risk or sacrificing global competitiveness. The repercussions of these tariff policies and corporate decisions extend far beyond boardrooms and shareholder meetings. These changes don't merely affect CEOs or investors. It is the American workforce that ultimately bears the most significant burden. The labor community, particularly in the Midwest, a region historically anchored by the factories of industrial giants like Ford and John Deere, is now confronting an economic downturn of a severity not witnessed in recent memory. Factories that once symbolized American industrial might are shuttering their doors. Workers are facing mass layoffs, leaving countless families grappling with uncertainty about their financial futures and how to sustain their livelihoods. Many of these workers took immense pride in their jobs at these major American companies, believing wholeheartedly in the promise of the Made in America dream, a dream that the Trump administration pledged to revive. But now, for many, that dream has dissolved into a harsh illusion. Their work, once a source of stability and identity, has been supplanted by overseas production, leaving them with diminished opportunities for growth and prosperity back home. Small businesses, intricately linked to these large manufacturers, from local auto repair shops relying on domestic parts to suppliers providing components, are also shutting down, victims of the lost customer base. Workers now confront not just the immediate risk of losing their employment, but also an increasingly uncertain future where new job opportunities within their traditional industries are becoming distressingly scarce. These workers, who were once the pride and backbone of major American corporations, are now left grappling with disappointment and a growing fear about what lies ahead. Trump's tariff strategies were initially presented as a means to rejuvenate U.S. manufacturing. The stated intention was to protect domestic industries and bring jobs back home. However, the actual chain of events unfolded in a dramatically different manner. Instead of triggering a resurgence of American production, the policies inadvertently pushed major companies like Ford and John Deere towards relocating their operations overseas. These corporations became pioneers in shifting production abroad, not necessarily out of choice, but often out of perceived necessity. Why did this happen? In today's interconnected global economy, the cost structures within the United States have rendered large-scale domestic production increasingly expensive for companies aiming to remain competitive on the world stage. Operating within the U.S. often means higher labor costs, stricter regulations, and, ironically, increased input costs due to the very tariffs meant to protect them. While Trump's tariffs might have offered short-lived advantages for some specific segments or workers, the broader effect was counterintuitive. Major companies ultimately prioritized survival and global market positioning over unwavering patriotism, especially when faced with significantly lower operating costs elsewhere. Those who had placed their faith in Trump's promise of a robust manufacturing comeback are now facing the harsh consequences. Soaring consumer prices, fewer domestic job opportunities, and a profound sense of disillusionment as the dream they believed in appears shattered by complex economic realities. Can China's actions push the U.S. economy into a deeper crisis through tariffs, treasury reductions, and increased consumer struggles? China's imposition of a staggering 125% tariff and the subsequent supply chain disruptions are undoubtedly causing severe consequences. We see car prices potentially rising by $5,000 to $7,000, inflation surging, and major companies being forced to halt operations. Consider Tesla and the broader U.S. auto industry. They are facing significant challenges. China imposed a 125% tariff specifically targeting U.S. products, including cars, machinery, and crucial semiconductor parts. As a direct consequence, companies like Tesla were compelled to suspend shipments to China. Within a mere 2 days of such actions, Tesla's market value plummeted by over $2 billion. This is a financial impact that simply cannot be dismissed or ignored. Tesla's electric car prices for consumers have subsequently increased by $5,000 to $7,000, making electric vehicle ownership an increasingly distant prospect, especially for individuals and families operating on limited budgets. This high cost not only curtails accessibility to electric cars, but also exerts significant financial pressure on those needing loans to purchase vehicles, ultimately making it harder than ever for many Americans to own an electric car. Adding another layer to this economic pressure, China is reducing its holdings of U.S. Treasury bonds. Will this weaken the U.S. dollar? China is undertaking another significant strategic move by decreasing its U.S. Treasury holdings to a 15-year low, settling at just $668 billion. Simultaneously, they are shifting towards utilizing the Chinese yuan and the euro for international transactions, moving away from reliance on the U.S. dollar. This strategic pivot will not only influence the value of the U.S. dollar, but could also initiate major fluctuations in global financial markets. The weakening of the U.S. dollar could subsequently drive up the price of imported goods, leading to further inflation in the future and making consumer costs even more expensive. This situation could potentially lead to a challenging economic cycle globally. Supply chain disruptions compound these issues, resulting in high car prices and delayed deliveries. But the problem doesn't stop there. We're also facing severe supply chain breakdowns where car manufacturers cannot secure enough parts, leading to further delayed deliveries. Thousands of cars are unable to reach consumers on time, creating significant difficulties. Can you imagine the current situation where the price of a new car has surpassed $50,000, while even used car prices have surged to $32,000? For many, owning a car is becoming a distant dream, particularly for those on restricted budgets. Furthermore, maintenance costs have effectively doubled, increasing from approximately $50 to $100, largely due to shortages of spare parts. The weakening of the U.S. dollar exacerbates this by making imported goods, including crucial car components, more expensive. This, in turn, drives up the cost of vehicles and replacement parts. This price escalation doesn't just affect new car purchases, it also increases the price of other consumer goods, causing overall living costs to rise significantly. It's not just a domestic issue. U.S. agriculture is steadily losing its global position. As production costs rise domestically, the U.S. becomes less competitive compared to agricultural powerhouses like Brazil, India, and European nations, where governments often provide stronger subsidies and support modernized mechanization. Does America have a chance to recover? The answer hinges on 3 critical factors. First, the federal government needs to significantly increase credit availability and subsidy support for small and medium-sized farms, preventing them from being overwhelmed by debt and facing bankruptcy. Second, substantial investment in domestic production infrastructure and supply chains is essential to reduce the nation's reliance on foreign imports for critical goods. Finally, trade policies must be carefully recalibrated. Creating more sustainable bilateral and multilateral agreements is key to minimizing risks from tariff wars and increasing access to vital global markets. Consumers also have a crucial role to play. When choosing goods, they are not just selecting a product, they are implicitly choosing the supply chain behind it. Supporting American-made goods directly translates into a vote for domestic agriculture and manufacturing. John Deere, the quintessential symbol of American agriculture, recently created significant waves by deciding to relocate some of its production operations to Mexico. This potential move could have a profound impact on Trump's signature America First policy, a policy he fervently promised to uphold during his presidency. Immediately upon hearing the news, Trump reacted fiercely, threatening a punitive 200% tariff on any John Deere products manufactured in Mexico and subsequently sold in the U.S. He stated clearly, John Deere is going to, and anybody else that does this, because it's hurting our farmers, it's hurting our manufacturing. And if you do that, you're going to have a 200% tariff put on the product that you make in Mexico right across the border. They think they're going to make product, but they're not going to build the plant. If it's not too late, they're not going to build the plant. This country is going to make a lot of money, or they're going to build the plant, but they're going to build it in the United States somewhere, and ideally a place like Michigan or South Carolina, where we have a lot of auto business. But we're not going to let that happen. However, this move wasn't as straightforward as Trump might have believed. It carried the potential for unexpected and widespread consequences affecting the entire U.S. agricultural industry. For Trump, John Deere's decision to outsource production represents a betrayal. A company so deeply interwoven with America's identity, now seeking profits elsewhere. It's hardly surprising, then, that he threatened to impose that steep 200% tariff on every product imported from their Mexican facilities. Yet, John Deere remained unshaken by these threats. The company continued to defend its decision, framing it as a necessary strategic maneuver to maintain competitiveness within the demanding global market. While Trump attempts to intimidate, John Deere has demonstrated that major American corporations can, and perhaps must, expand globally, refusing to be constrained solely by domestic protectionist policies, especially when facing significantly different cost structures abroad. With production costs steadily rising within the United States, moving production to Mexico emerged as a matter of survival for John Deere. Labor costs in the U.S. are roughly twice as high as in Mexico. Therefore, if John Deere intends to remain competitive on a global scale, expanding into emerging markets becomes an absolute necessity. Markets such as Brazil, India, and China are increasingly demanding agricultural equipment. If John Deere fails to act decisively, they risk being left behind by competitors who can operate more cost-effectively. This is precisely why Trump's high tariffs aren't just a threat to the manufacturing industry itself. They can also place U.S. companies at a severe disadvantage in the global race for market share. What's particularly interesting is that this confrontation isn't merely about politics and tariffs. It also highlights a significant transformation occurring within the agriculture industry itself. Automation technology is progressively replacing traditional manual labor. GPS-controlled tractors, AI-powered harvesting machines, and drones scanning fields are no longer futuristic novelties, but increasingly common realities. While technology is revolutionizing the game, Trump's protectionist policies appear to cling to an outdated economic model, ultimately deepening the divide within the agriculture sector. John Deere has proven resilient, demonstrating they are not afraid to withstand pressure from Trump. The company understands that to remain competitive, global expansion is essential. But the crucial question remains: will this strategic divergence force Trump to reconsider and potentially alter his long-held protectionist policies? That question currently hangs unanswered. However, one outcome is certain. If John Deere successfully navigates this battle and thrives with its international operations, numerous other American companies are likely to follow their lead. This could make protecting domestic production even more challenging than ever before. In the end, regardless of corporate strategies or political maneuvering, it's the American consumers who will ultimately pay the price. As costs for essential goods like food and agricultural products inevitably rise due to these protectionist policies and shifting global dynamics, American families, especially those with low incomes, could be forced to confront significantly higher living costs, particularly for fundamental necessities. As a result, this trade war won't just impact companies and trade policies. It will directly affect the daily lives and financial stability of the American people. Let's shift focus slightly to the automotive industry, where similar pressures are playing out, but with unique twists. Consider Honda's game-changing move with its CR-V Hydro. In just a few minutes, you can fully refuel this vehicle and drive over 430 kilometers. There's no lengthy charging time, and crucially, no emissions. Honda's CR-V EFCEV is quietly rewriting the rules of the auto industry. While much of the world is investing heavily in lithium batteries and expanding charging station infrastructure, Honda is exploring a different avenue. Can hydrogen and old fuel concepts, updated with a modern twist, reshape the future of the car industry? In an era where electrification is the dominant strategy for global car manufacturers, Honda has chosen a less conventional path, a return to hydrogen, but reimagined in a completely new form. The CR-V EFCEV is more than just another vehicle. It's a statement about technology and collaboration, Born from a partnership between two industrial giants, Honda and General Motors, this model innovatively combines a 17.7 kilowatt-hour rechargeable battery, providing about 29 miles of purely electric driving, with a hydrogen fuel cell system, extending the total range to approximately 270 miles, or about 435 kilometers. Most importantly, refueling takes merely 3 to 5 minutes. This SUV bypasses the need for lengthy charging sessions and isn't reliant on the existing electrical grid, a significant strategic advantage, especially when many U.S. states are already facing challenges with grid overload. Here, convenience itself becomes a new form of power, not because everything needs to be connected, but precisely because connection isn't always necessary. Hydrogen technology has long been viewed as a potential key to reducing energy dependence among nations. It eliminates the need to import oil and sidesteps the requirement for a vast global EV charging network. Furthermore, when hydrogen is produced using renewable energy sources, it becomes green hydrogen, a fuel source virtually free from geopolitical costs and environmental impact. Currently, however, only about 1% of global hydrogen production is truly green. The vast majority is gray hydrogen, produced from natural gas, which unfortunately still releases greenhouse gases. This reality makes the hydrogen car narrative complex. It's not just about technological advancement, but deeply intertwined with energy policy, national investment strategies, and environmental concerns. California, Japan, China, and the European Union have all established ambitious goals to expand hydrogen fueling networks to hundreds of points by 2030. If hydrogen cars achieve widespread adoption, this could represent a monumental game changer, not only for environmental sustainability, but also for national energy freedom and geopolitical balance. Turning our attention to another major player, Tesla, with its dominant share, over 50% of the U.S. electric vehicle market, stands as the symbol of the current electrification era. Its extensive supercharger network, boasting over 3,500 stations, provides a significant strategic advantage. It has effectively created its own energy corridor, serving a closed ecosystem of Tesla owners. However, this ecosystem is fundamentally reliant on finite resources, like lithium and cobalt for its batteries, and dependent on the existing national power grid infrastructure. While a Tesla Model Y typically requires 30 to 40 minutes to fast charge up to 80%, the Honda CR-V EFCEV needs only 5 minutes for a full hydrogen tank, without tapping into the electric grid at all. This highlights the different approaches and trade-offs between battery electric and hydrogen fuel cell technologies. In conclusion, the economic landscape is undergoing a dramatic transformation, driven by shifting global trade dynamics, technological advancements, and assertive policy decisions. Trump's tariffs, intended to protect American industries, have inadvertently spurred major companies like John Deere and Ford to move production overseas, impacting U.S. jobs and raising consumer prices. Simultaneously, China's retaliatory tariffs and strategic reduction of U.S. Treasury holdings signal a move away from dollar dependency, potentially reshaping global finance and further increasing costs for American consumers. The agricultural sector faces pressure from both rising production costs and global competition, while farmers grapple with boycotts and the economic fallout. In the automotive world, while Tesla dominates the current EV market, Honda's investment in hydrogen fuel cell technology presents a potential alternative, highlighting the ongoing debate between electrification and other clean energy solutions. Ultimately, these complex economic forces and policy choices are creating significant challenges for American workers, consumers, and industries, shattering the traditional made-in-America dream and forcing a difficult reckoning with the realities of a globalized, competitive, and rapidly changing world. What are your thoughts on these developments? Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this analysis valuable, please remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more updates on the global economy and politics. Thanks for watching.